So, Battlefield 2042 Season 2 is in full swing, and since we have had a little bit of time to digest what this new season has to offer, let us ask the question, is Battlefield 2042's Season 2 content actually any good? Well, let's not waste any more time and start breaking this down then, shall we? So first of all, we are introduced to the new specialist called Charlie Crawford. Now, regardless of how you feel about the specialists, they're here to stay, it seems. Now, they are going to be breaking them up into different classes, but the actual core gameplay and the design of these specialists isn't going to change too much, so it's best off just looking at them objectively and putting your opinions aside just for a brief moment. Charlie Crawford is a British support class, so he gets all those kind of perks like reviving quicker, etc. I won't go into the lore of the character too much. I mean, there's not much anyway, and it doesn't really matter. I don't think many people are super interested in that kind of thing, but the primary ability that he can spawn a deployable minigun with a shield. Now, it's super situational and it does leave you very vulnerable, but it certainly packs a punch and it matches his support role. It's very good at suppressing the enemy and you can actually pick up a few kills with it too. It's actually really fun, especially if you get it set up in a really nice position like a hallway, and maybe you've got an Irish in front of you with defenses that he's put in place for you. You can really rack up those kills and really support, again, leaning into that support role, the rest of your team. So perfectly designed in that kind of aspect. Now, if they're going to stick with the specialist system, I feel like this character is actually a perfect blueprint on how to actually design them. Obviously, you want to give them abilities that don't alter the game too much and are situational. It's not the most exciting way, but it is the most balanced way, I feel. And it's got to lead to less frustration. And as long as it's fun and they're fun to play as, people are still going to use them. I feel like one of Battlefield 2042's main issues is that you rarely die due to a 1 versus 1 battle, and you're always getting killed by something you can't really see. So either it's going to be a Mackay that's ziplined to some place that you didn't even think you could get to. You always have to have your head in the swivel because of this specialist. Now, I love playing as him, but he can be very frustrating to be pressed by. And this is the same as Pake, really, because obviously he can be spotted through a wall and they just slide around the corner and you have no chance to compete, really, because they know where you are, you have no idea where they are, etc. And then you add the likes of the helicopters, grenade launchers, all that stuff. Now, it's frustrating. So if you consistently die that way, you're going to get annoyed and not want to play the game anymore. It's just simple as, and I feel like that's one of the main issues that Battlefield 2042 faces. Now, those kind of situations are part and parcel of Battlefield game. It's always going to be there, but it is just too prevalent in the general design and iteration of this Battlefield since the way the specialists work. Okay, it's just something you're going to have to get used to because it's not going to change. But I think Charlie, spinning it back on a positive manner, I think Charlie fits nicely into this group of specialists and doesn't make too much of a splash in that regard. He's still useful, still unique, but he's not overpowered and he's still very fun to play as, so thumbs up where I'm concerned with this specialist. Now, when it comes to the new map, I feel like it is another solid addition. It's not as good as Exposure, it's very open in places, and the ship does play really well, to be honest. The only real issue I've got with it is that the flag balance feels a little bit off. Once a team captures, say on Conquest, once the US team really captures the majority of the flags, there's definitely an advantage for them. I feel like it's really hard to counter on the Russia's side of things. I'm not really sure what it is, but I've played a fair few rounds on it, and if I'm on the Russian team, we always seem to struggle. It's not night and day, it's not super cut and dry, but once the tide of the battle turns in the US favor, it's definitely more difficult to counter from that side rather than the US side, really. It's sort of the reverse on Breakthrough as well. They are very inconsistent on Breakthrough, so I feel like they've only got one really good flag to attack and defend, and that's the very first one. It's hectic, it's chaotic, but it's actually really competitive. You can actually defend that flag if you want. You usually get really far and then eventually they break through, but it's usually really competitive. And then it gets to the second flag, which is inside the ship, and if you're on the US team, well, good luck, because it's really difficult to attack the second flag. It has been done and it can be done. Again, it's never impossible, but if you've got a good defensive team, you're not getting through. They have a massive advantage on that second flag, the defending team. That being said, if you do manage to break through on the second flag, it's basically game over for the defenders. Because past that flag, every other flag is super easy to attack, and that's it. I haven't seen anyone defend the last flag on Breakthrough on this map successfully without just getting absolutely walked, because it's really open. You literally just pop smokes, rush in, sit on the flag, and you win. You can just like lie under buildings and stuff like this. Again, it's not a terrible map. I actually really enjoy it. But Breakthrough does need a bit of work, especially on the last flag there. It's just far too easy, and then the second flag is far too hard for the attackers. There just needs to be a bit of tweaking. I don't know how. I've got no notes on how they're actually going to do that, to be honest. I'm not a map designer, but it's just my opinion on it. It made me think as well, because I was trying to get gameplay on other maps just to mix it up a little bit, to have it in the background, and it made me remember how underwhelming the base game maps actually are. And this is a negative tied with a positive. It does mean that the new map, Stranded, is quality. It is really good. It's one of the more fun ones. I actually think they need to make a playlist with the 2 new maps in it, so Exposure and Stranded together in one playlist on a rotation would be really, really fun. I would play that, because the rest of the maps are just far too big. They're far too big, and we've gone over the issues a number of times, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but I feel that this map solves a lot of them, and I actually forgot what the issues were until I went back to try and record some gameplay on those new maps. It's just not as good. It's just not as fun. It's a little bit more frustrating. It's far too open. There's not enough cover, etc., etc. So they've done great work to tone down the effectiveness of the vehicles on this map. You can actually get away from them if you want as well. So if you really don't want to interact with the vehicles, you just stay inside the ship. The majority of the time you can do so. It's quite easy to get to as well. There is a bit of spawn camping that can happen at times, but the majority of the time you'll be able to make it to the ship and just stick in there and battle between those 2 flags that are there. Now that happens quite often, to be honest. So then the other flags get neglected by this one of the teams, and then becomes a bit of a walkover, which is a bit of an issue. But that's more of a player-based thing, and just wanting a bit more cover and wanting, I think it's a lack of infantry focused gameplay at the moment in the general game, so people are just flocking to that ship. But outside of that, the flags are really good as well. They have shrunk the map down, so you're never too far away from the action. So getting to those 4 of the flags is pretty good. You are going to need a vehicle. That's part of Battlefield. It'd be weird if they didn't. Really well designed. Needs a bit of work. Not as good as Exposure, but I'm very happy with it. So onto the Battle Pass then. Ignoring the weapons that are in it for just a moment, because we'll touch on them in a separate section. But there are 100 tiers, as expected, which are the likes of skins, stickers, charms. If you're into those things, that's great. It's jam-packed with that. There is some premium currency as well that can be earned now, which is always nice if you're saving up for something in the store, or you just want to use it back in the Battle Pass for next season. Then yeah, it's great. It's there. It's giving you the option, which I don't think that was in Season 1 at all. So it's always nice to see the premium currency coming into the Battle Pass. There's not much to say on it, to be honest. It's fine. There's nothing there that would really draw a lot of people to it, I don't think. Even the level 100 stuff isn't exceptional. It's fine. It looks good. Within that, though, there is a new vehicle, which I'll touch on in this bit. It's the EBC Ram, or something like that, I think it's called. Or the EBCC Ram. It's a great addition, I actually feel. I'm not a massive vehicle player, but it's really good against infantry. It's super fast, but it's weak against armor and other heavier vehicles. So it has that place that needed filling in. It's pretty balanced, and it has a really cool skin in the Battle Pass. You can't really ask for too much more. And it has that really cool, unique trait where you can put down a spawn beacon for your team. It is pretty on a short timer, to be honest, but it is still really cool, and once you put that into the maps, it might work a lot better also. They've also thrown a new melee weapon, which is some sort of axe and slash hammer combination called Blunt Force, which looks pretty cool. They haven't got a lot of melee weapons in the game at the moment. I don't think they're really used all too much either. I can count on 2 hands probably the amount of times I've got a melee kill or an execution. It's still cool though. It looks pretty good. I never say no to a new one, so that's a good addition. There's also a new throwable with a concussion grenade. I'm really not sure how many people are actually going to use this, to be honest, but I would rather have it in the game than not, if that makes sense, because I remember messing around with concussion grenades and riot shields in Battlefield 4 just for a laugh with a few friends, and it was really fun. And if it's going to add to the sandbox that is Battlefield, then we can't complain about that, because that's exactly what we've wanted. We've just wanted more things to do, more things to mix it up, and I think the concussion grenades are a really good addition. Yep, not everyone's going to run it. It can be kind of frustrating in a sense to get used to, but overall I feel like it's a good addition as well. Alright, so let's talk about these new weapons then. So first of all, they've added a few to the Battle Pass itself, so we'll touch on them briefly now. So first of all, we have the AM40, which is not quite an assault rifle, but not quite an SMG, even though it is in the assault rifle category, which is okay. And it's exactly how it plays as well. It gets out DPS at range by everything but SMGs and some shotguns, because some shotguns are absolutely insane with the slug rounds. But then it also gets DPS by SMGs and shotties at short range, so it's really best to kind of medium to short range-ish. But at that point, you might as well just take a strong SMG or something like that. So it's okay. Again, it's an addition to the game. It serves its purpose, but doesn't really excel at much. I'm sure you can get used to it, and with better attachments, it will be viable. But it's nowhere near, top tier of the weapons we already have in the game. Again, it needs to be in there somewhere. You can't always release overpowered weapons, so that's fine. Then we have the PF51, which is a rapid-fire pistol with the power of a P90 SMG, it seems. Easily the best sidearm in the game now for all-round use. Obviously, you still got the Magnum, which is still way better at range, and some people may prefer that as a sidearm, which is absolutely fine. But in terms of the other two semi-auto pistols, this is just going to blow them out the water. So I don't feel like anyone is actually going to use the other pistols much at all. Everyone's kind of swung between using all three, depending on how the meta's changed, but then this one's been introduced, and I really don't feel the need to use the other pistols at all now, because you'd rather have a mini SMG like PDW kind of thing rather than just a handgun. Next then is the AVA LMG. This thing absolutely shreds. It's easily the best LMG now, I would say, and it's nice to have a new addition into the LMG category, because we only had two, which is ridiculous, and one of them was terrible for a while, and then buffed it, and then they nerfed it again, so they weren't really so prevalent in the game, and people didn't really use them all that much. I haven't used this new one an awful ton, because it is fairly deep into the battle pass this early on, but it is strong, and it's a good addition. I'm very happy with it. Now for the weapons that they have taken from Portal, though. So the first one is the classic M16, and it's the perfectly balanced AR. Stats-wise, at least, it's straight 50s across the board on the base model, and it plays really well also. It's exactly how it has played in the Portal mode. Relatively low recoil, moderate damage, exactly what the stats say. It's just all-round balance, and it's a fun gun to use. I would certainly use it. Again, you're not going to beat something like the Scar at range, but also you'll probably beat it at a closer range, so it definitely fits perfectly into where it wants to. Really great addition there. And then there's the M60 as well, which is again an absolute beast. So the LMG category from going from not viable at all to really, really strong now, which is fantastic. So the M60, I love it. It's a classic old school weapon, and it absolutely shreds players as well. The one side note I would say on this is that the two Portal weapons come with all the attachments unlocked straight away, which is fine. I understand why they've done that, but I feel like having a bit of progression with these guns and a bit more encouragement to actually use them would be nice as well. I'm not 100% sure why the decision was made. I guess it would take a bit more work to actually create a progression system around these two new weapons, instead of just, here you go, here's new guns, use them how you want. And something that I noticed also, I didn't record it, which is an absolute shame, but I unlocked a challenge. I completed a challenge for the AEK, which is in Portal at the moment, but it's not actually in the main game yet. You can't actually select it for, you know, Battlefield 2042 Conquest or anything like that, but it came up on the end of round screen that I completed the challenge. I should have written it down. I should have wrote down what the challenge was. It was like get 100 kills with something or other. It might have been like an M60, and then I don't think it was resupply people with ammo or something else, but it was very similar challenges to like the M61 and the M16 one, but it was the AEK that I unlocked. I was like, I didn't remember seeing that, so I checked and it wasn't actually there, and I should have taken a screenshot. I didn't think that was a glitch at first, and I wasn't recording, but I promise you that's likely going to come now, because I promise you that happened. I'm not lying to you. I saw it, I unlocked it, but it's obviously just not active in the game yet, but it basically confirms to me that it's on its way, which is good, because I really like the AEK. It's dead fun to use. And that's most of what I wanted to touch on. I'm just going to give my overview here and a bit of a wrap up, because, you know, in terms of my overall thoughts, I think it's fine. It's going to draw some players back, but for how long, I'm not sure. It's only one map again, which kind of sucks, but at least we have two good maps now, and they are working on the other ones, improving them, etc. They need to make a playlist with the two new maps in, though. They need to make a playlist with Exposure and Stranded on a rotation, and that'd be really good. In terms of the performance is still subpar. I didn't expect it to change, to be honest, much at all, but it has to be noted because it's just, again, just north of 100 FPS on low settings with a 3080. One of my main gripes still hasn't been solved, I don't think. It's the input lag on the keyboard and mouse. I'm not sure about controller, if it still feels rough there. I know they made some improvements over the last couple of weeks, but I've tested this time and time again after the end of each update. I play a few rounds of Battlefield 2042, and then I play Battlefield 5. Battlefield 5 just feels so much more consistent and easier to aim, a lot more crisp and responsive. It might be slightly down to the lower FPS that I'm getting on Battlefield 2042, but there's certainly input lag there as well. It's not all down to performance for sure, because the difference between 100 FPS and 165 in terms of latency isn't really noticeable to the extent that this is noticeable, at least. So has it done enough to redeem itself? Not really. Again, it's a step in the right direction, but when you're still a mile away, a step isn't great progress, really. It's not a great position to be in. I'm glad that they're supporting the game. I'm glad they're adding this into it. It's definitely an improvement, so I don't want to be super negative, because it is good. What they've done has improved the game overall, for sure, but it's still not enough. I'll probably echo this for the next few updates as well. It's going to take some time. And that's really it. I mean, these are my initial thoughts on the Battlefield 2042 Season 2 content. They do have a roadmap that has shown some interesting changes that are going to be happening over the next coming weeks and months, which is really good. So I hope it really does make leaps and bounds during that time. I really love the Battlefield franchise, and I do want to see it succeed, of course. But yeah, still a while off, I feel. But what do you think of Season 2? Are you happy with the additions? Did you want to have more added? Have they done enough in your opinion? Are you enjoying the game still? I know there's a lot of you that really like Battlefield 2042, so I don't want to put you off or anything like that, because if you're enjoying it, all power to you. That's great. Keep enjoying it. Again, it's just not for me at this moment in time, but I'm really wanting to enjoy it. So if you are, brilliant. But let me know in the comments down below what your opinion is. If you like the video, smash like for me and hit subscribe if you fancy sticking around. I really, really appreciate it. You'd be an absolute legend. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, guys, cheers.